Greetings, my dearest friends in Christ. I welcome each and every one of you to this edition of Faith Issues. I am Reverend Fr Solomon Onuh. We shall be reflecting on the topic, living freely and happily in this strange space. And our reflections shall be coming from the readings of today, which is Thursday in the third week of Lent. Jeremiah 7:23 to 28. And the Gospel of Luke 11 from 14 to 23. Jeremiah is telling us in the reading that we should walk in all the way that I command you, that it may be well with you. So we all can begin to ask ourselves, we have all found ourselves in this strange space. We knew totally nothing when we came into this space, into this world. So, and who is the best person to tell us how best to live happily and freely here on earth? Now, I would like us to answer this question using this little story of mine. As a young seminarian, I once went into the market to buy a radio. And when I got the radio, in excitement, I rushed home and started making use of the radio without looking at the prescriptions of the producers. And when I'm done using the radio, after a few days, I noticed that the radio has begun to have battery problems. So I began to ask myself, what could be the problem in such a new radio? It was then that I went to the pack, to the carton of the radio, and I saw a leaflet on which was written the prescriptions about how to make use of the radio, how best to use the radio so that it will serve us well and become more effective and last long. So because I didn't obey those prescriptions, that radio didn't last much in my hand because it began to have battery problem from the onset. So using that same story, you begin to ask yourself, who is the best person we should listen to on the making use of the radio? Is it my own decisions? Is it the prescriptions of the person I bought it from? Or the prescriptions of the person who has produced it? I think the person who has produced it is the person who knows best about the radio, the content of the radio, and how best to use the radio for it to serve effectively and longer. So, my dearest ones, I think it is the creator of the world is the one to tell us how best to live freely and happily and well here on earth. So, my dearest ones, we have to obey God in order to be happy and free here on earth. Then we would like to ask ourselves questions. What do we stand to gain when we obey God? Now, when we obey God, we will see that we will be well connected with nature. We will be well connected to God, and we will also be well connected with ourselves. We'll have a good relationship with ourselves, we'll have a good relationship with God, and a good relationship with nature. We will take it them one after the other. So what does it mean to be in good relationship with nature? It is the same God who created nature that also created the law, the commandments we are meant to obey. So he would have considered the nature he created for us to live in when he was making the laws for us. So he would have made the laws based on the principles of nature. So that as soon as you have begun to obey the commandments of God, you will see yourself flowing smoothly with nature. You will be happy with people and people will be happy with you. You will be happy with your environment and things will flow smoothly for you. But when you begin to live against the commandment, you see a lot of things turning around against you. The law of karma. So what does it mean also now to be well connected to God? We use the analogy of a phone without a SIM card. A phone without a SIM card is unable to be connected to any network. And because of that, the three things that phones are known for, making calls, sending messages, and browsing, the phone will not be able to do it because it's not connected to any network. Though you can still use the phone as a torchlight, you can still use the phone in playing game, you can still use the phone as a calculator. But those major three things you can do. You will now begin to understand why Jesus said, "Now cut off from me, you can do nothing." It doesn't mean that cut off from Jesus, you can no longer know how to drive car. It doesn't mean that cut off from Jesus, you no longer know how to eat food. It doesn't mean that you will not be able to do well in your business cut off from Jesus. You can still do all these things. But those particular primary things that we are known as human persons, they will just elude you. You will find no joy in anything. You will find no peace inside you. The satisfaction will not be there. You are not satisfied with yourself. So, but once you are connected to God, you will see all these things coming into play in your life. You begin to love, you begin to be lovely. And you see God's protection in your life. That was exactly what happened in the gospel. When Jesus came and met the man possessed by demon, it was said there, Jesus was casting out a demon that was mute. When the demon had gone out, the mute man spoke. The man couldn't cast the demon he had inside him. It was only at the arrival of Jesus, the closeness he had with Jesus at that very moment, that made it possible that Jesus was able to protect him from the punishments he has been undergoing under the demon, and he was able to speak again. So, my dearest ones, now, what does it mean to be connected with ourselves? St. Augustine told us in his own story that he was busy looking for God outside without knowing that he would only find God in himself. And it was only when he found God himself that he became friendly with himself, that he could now say that my soul can never rest unless it rests in God. So, my dearest ones, so many of us are suffering split personality because we don't obey God's commandments. We are not friendly with our very self. We are unsatisfied. We are not happy. We don't find peace in us. We are not our own friends. We don't know our emotions, our passions, because we are far from ourselves, because we disobey God's commandments. So, what does it mean to obey God's commandment? To walk in all the way that I command you. In the first place, anyone who is choosing the particular commandments of God to obey and those not to obey because he's finding some difficult is actually making a very big mistake. Because you have to obey all God's commandments in order to be able to really gain these things that we are discussing today. My dearest ones, what then does it mean to walk in all the way that I command you? It means making God's commandments, God's will in our life, making it our foundation, making it our standard, making it our worldview. What does it mean to make it our foundation? It means, as we are erecting our building, we have to consider the foundation. And anything that is not in line with the foundation is taken away from the building. And anyone that aligns with the foundation is brought into the building. And at the end of the day, you find a beautiful edifice at the end of the building. So, my dearest ones, it means that any parts of our life, other things that we do in life that are not in line with the commandments of God, will have to be taken away. It also means to make God's words, God's commandment, God's will, our standard. We use that standard to measure every other thing that happens around us. And anyone that doesn't fit into the standard is being removed. And anyone that is in line is being retained. It also means that we have to make it our worldview. If you are using a pair of glasses, and if the color is red, you begin to see everything that you begin to view with that glasses will turn red. And if the glass is blue in color, you see that everything you begin to see will appear that blue. So that with God's commandment as your worldview, you begin to see things from the perspective of God, so that when you see your fellow human beings, you understand that you both were created by the same God, and for that reason, He becomes your brother or your sister. And with that, you no longer find enemies in your life. So, my dearest ones, in summary, this is a strange world that we are living. All that we know is the things we learned when we came in here. So the right person to actually tell us the best way of living happily and free and living well here, according to Jeremiah, is God. So the commandments He has given us are meant to be upheld strictly. With these, we are able to live happily, freely, and joyfully, and well in this strange world. Peace be with you.